Welcome to another video from DIY Daily. Just got a bit of a different video tonight. Basically we've got a half shaft out of a 2011 Amarok. Now I'm not doing a full video of removing the half shaft. I might do a video after of removing and installing it, but basically we've got an Amarok that needs a rear wheel bearing. You can only buy these half shafts complete from Volkswagen that all come with the bearing and everything built up on it, so you can literally just pull it straight out and then slide it back in. But just thought I'd put this video together. Basically, to remove it, all you really need to do is get the wheel off, get the drum off. There's 4 bolts holding the half shaft in, and you can slide it out to get to this stage. But say at a later date, I might add a video to this where I'll put a link in the description or a link above to where you can get to that on removing it. But basically, you can actually buy the wheel bearing separate. It's the first time I've done this. We've not had a go at this before, but we're going to have a go tonight. This is another half shaft that I've been given off somebody else that's basically got a knackered wheel bearing on it. So I'm going to attempt to fit a new wheel bearing, get it all swapped over first, and as long as it all goes to plan, obviously we can swap it over and get it on the truck. But yeah, basically you can actually buy them. We've got a Moog unit here, and I'll just put a link in the description below to where you can get them from, which comes with a new bearing. It is actually sided as well. It does need to go in a certain way. I think it's this side towards the diff, but we'll run you through that when we're refitting it. Comes with a new seal, and it comes with some new nuts on there as well. But yeah, basically I've not tried this before, so we're going to have a go at it tonight, see if we can rig up a bit of a method to get the bearing pressed off and just run you through how to swap it all over. But yeah, we'll just crack on now and run you through it a step at a time. Right, so the first thing we're going to do is I've just done it already, but just knock a punch under there just to knock the locking tab out. Now one thing you do want to take note of, this one's a left hand side shaft, which on the left hand side shaft they have a left hand threaded nut on there as well. So, and you can just see, if you just look at the thread, you can actually just see the direction that it goes. But yeah, left hand side is a left hand threaded nut. So what we're going to need to do to get that off, we've just had to specially order this massive 50mm spanner. Didn't have one of these, so but yeah, we're going to have a crack now. Just get the nut off to start with and then go on from there. Right, so now the nut's off, the next thing we're going to do, we've got a couple of different methods that we're going to try, but the first one is using the Gen 2 wheel bearing kit. But without that, because most people aren't likely to have the wheel bearing kit, one thing we was going to try is using the threaded bar and the nuts, fit the threaded bar just through the shaft hole there, basically put on the nut on the inside so that we can keep winding it, put 4 pieces of threaded bar in with the nuts and keep trying to wind it nice and even to just keep using the bar to push the bearing away, that's all. But just before that we're going to try the method with the Gen 2 bearing kit, which is these cups in there, and basically we're going to slide the cups in either side. It's quite a tight fit, but you can knock them in one either side. And then, like the style with how you release the Gen 2 wheel bearings, you'll have the stud that then goes through the wheel bolt hole, resting against the plate there, and then we should be able to use the press to push the shaft down onto it. So I'm going to get it rigged up now with the Gen 2 bearing style kit, get it into the press and then show you the setup once we're there. Right, so this is the Gen 2 wheel bearing kit. It's the Sykes-Pickerton one that we've got. Now basically the cup that we've got around there is the size 82, and basically what we've done is this is a 5 stud one, so your studs that come in the kit and just go through the wheel bolt holes there. What we're going to do is rig them up with all 5 of them. Obviously the 5 studs then sit into this piece of the kit, and the idea is to have this piece of kit below the press, just above the ground on a little plate. Obviously that's then pressing on the studs, which is pressing the cup, and hopefully if all goes to plan that should then press the bearing off if we use the press to press on the centre of the shaft and press it downwards. Hopefully that will go to plan and get the bearing off. Right, so let's just have the first attempt at it. Now because we can't get the centre piece of the press just on the floor, we might be able to in a minute, we're just going to have a move around, but just to start with, we've just put this bit of box section on there, and you can just see the setup that we've got on the bearing. And all we're going to do at the minute, just used a bit of an extension to put some weight on it on the centre of the shaft. So we'll get a bit of weight on it with the press and just see what happens. So a bit of a bang there as it's cracked the bearing off, but it has just released it. You can see we've got a bit of a gap there now, so I'm just going to rejig it up and just have a bit of another go, just see if it has started. It did start bending the bit of box section there, so we'll have a bit of a rejig and see what we can do with that. Right, so we've just abandoned ship on the press idea at the minute. I mean, obviously it has done a decent bit of the work, and it's just cracked it off, but was having a little bit of a problem where was putting so much pressure on it that the bottom of it was sort of starting to put too much load on the bottom of the press, because we couldn't get a big enough sort of gap in there to put a decent bit of metal in the bottom, that's all. So we've just switched over, just got it over to the bench, got it in the vise, and we're going to now try the threaded bar method with the nuts. Basically going to hold the threaded bar while we wind the nuts up nice and even all the way around, keep trying to put a bit of load on it that way, and see if we can force the bearing out that way. Right, so we've got a bit of pressure on there. It's not starting to release it yet, but while the pressure's on, we're going to give it a decent few knocks with the hammer. Hopefully that'll just crack it off a bit, and then we can keep winding it. Yeah, let's see how it goes. Right, so it's a little bit painstaking progress. I don't know if you could just hear it sort of clicking there. It's starting to do something now, and you can see it has just started coming up a bit. But basically all we're doing is we keep nipping it, putting a good bit of tension on it. Then we're just using the copper hammer just to give it a bit of a firm whack or two just on the side there. Obviously you've got to be careful because we're reusing this casing, so we don't want to damage it. But once it's got a decent bit of tension on it and you give it a firm knock on there, every time you do that it's sort of releasing it slightly. So we'll just keep cracking on. Just keep chipping away at it, and hopefully you're starting to get somewhere now. Right, so just got a bit bored just winding the threaded bar. It's just a bit painstakingly slow. Just had a good look around the workshop and managed to find some of these M12 bolts. So it just means now that we can just do them with the impact driver, just while holding the nut with the spanner, which should just take a bit of time off, just make it a little bit easier. Keep putting the load on, keep giving it a tap. Let's see if we can get it off. Just see, that's the ABS ring off. Nearly there now. A bit more. And that's the bearing released. Right, so you can just see that seemed to work quite well, just rattling it off. Next thing we're going to do, we've just got the inner section of the bearing race just stuck on here. Now there's a few ways that you can tackle this. Obviously the normal way, just putting or the common way, people just use a grinder, just putting a little slit in it until you're nearly all the way through, and then just separating it with a chisel. But you can spin it with some heat from the oxyacetylene on it, keep spinning it to get that bit warm, and it should drop off. But we've got the new Pickler induction heater, so we're going to give it a crack with that tonight and just see if that works. But yeah, we'll just get it set up and just see if we can get the race off, and then we'll move. Once the race is off, then we'll start prepping to swap the wheel bearing over and getting it reinstalled. And obviously just first, as we're just pressing it off, you can just see the section where the ABS ring is there that just sleeves on over the top as well. So obviously you just need to be careful with that ring just to make sure you don't damage it. Alright, so we've got this Pickler tool, heat inductor for it. It's always nice to use this now that we've got it. But yeah, obviously if you haven't, just try the slitting it method, or just using the oxyacetylene. But we're just going to have a crack at this now. Basically just to put a little ball bearing on the floor just so we can give it a bit of a spin while we're doing it. I'm just going to apply a bit of heat to the ring now, and all being well, it should just drop straight off. That, what a tool. Right, so next step now, we're just going to get the actual bearing out of the flange here, and just again, I'll make note of it now, but this is a bit of a mistake that a few people make. Just take note that your rubber seal on the bearing is on this side, the diff side of it. It's just you don't want to get that the wrong way around, that's all. But what we're going to do next, we've just got a little circlip in there, so we're just going to get the circlip out, and then we'll be able to get it over to the press and press the bearing out. That's the circlip out, so let's get it over to the press now and just press the bearing out. Okay, that's the bearing out. Just give it a quick clean up now, and then we'll get ready to press the new bearing in. Right, so just give the hub flange a quick wipe out. It's pretty clean in there because it's immersed in the diff oil all the time. They don't tend to get too scabby or anything. So we're just going to pop the bearing in now. And yeah, obviously, again, as we said earlier on, now that the hub carrier's this way up, the bearing's going to want to sit into the metal ring is to the top there. And just to press it in, just so that we've got bang on the right size, it's nice and easy to just use the old wheel bearing, so you know it's bang on the right size. It's just pressing on the outside there, not the inner casing. So just crack on, just get that pressed in. So the bearing's going in nice and easy, and all we'd look to do, you can just sort of feel it by hand. We'll just give it a bit of a nip. You'll just sort of run it around to probably like a couple of ton where you can feel it, and it's just bedded down, that's all. It's just sort of bottomed out now. Just get a bit of a feel for it. You can just see it's got a bit of weight on there, so you don't want to nip it too tight. But you'll just know when you're doing it. You can feel when it's nice and bottomed out. That's awesome. So that's it. You can see the bearings in. Everything looks nice. Just going to get the circlip banged in next. Then we'll run you on to the next step after that. Right, so we're now ready to install the bearing onto the half shaft. So the way that we're going to do that, we're going to use the old inner race that we've got off, just because that's the right size to sit on the inside of the bearing there, so that the weight's on the right place as we're pressing it down. It's only going to put the weight on the inside. There is a little sleeve, like a plastic sleeve in there. We're just going to take that out just before we sleeve it on. Basically, we're going to put that on there now, slide it over the half shaft, and then we've got another bearing, which is just this one there, which is basically going to go over the top. So it'll just sit over the half shaft as well, and that will just sit over there, so that basically we can sit this bearing. We'll show you again once it's in the press, but the two little plates on the press will go either side of this bearing there, so we can then press the half shaft down into the bearing. So we'll just show you once we've sort of got it rigged up into place. Right, and this bearing that we've used there is actually the old wheel bearing from this as well, just because it's the right size, but basically that's just going to be used as a spacer now, so we can sit them pads either side of it. But yeah, let's just get it onto the press and just show you it in situ. That's it, and you can just see basically all that's doing is just operating as a sort of packer, just so it sits on there. The inner race there is obviously pressing on the inner piece of the bearing. Obviously we don't want to be pressing on the outer at this stage, it will damage it. So, but at that we can now put some weight on it and press the half shaft into the bearing. Again, just a little nip, just got a little bit of weight on there, but you can feel it when you're doing it, that's bottomed out, just nicely sat home, and you can just give it a bit of a spin just to make sure it feels nice and okay as well. And you can just see as we've just pressed it down, the insert from the centre of the bearing, the little holder piece has just come out with it as well. So all we've got to do next is just get the ABS ring on. Just give that a quick clean up now, then we'll get that sat over and into place. Right, so same with the ABS sensor and ring there, because this is going to be pressed on as well. Again, we're going to use the inner part of the bearing just like that, so it sits on there. We'll cup the old bearing on it, and just the same as we've done with the main bearing, we can rig it up in the press the same way, just to slide that, I'll press the ABS ring on. So you can just see we've got the old race there, and we haven't had to put the bearing on this time, so we're just going to give it a press down now, and that should go on okay. Lovely, again just a little nip, and that's gone down bang on. I'll just get that out now, just give it a quick spin, just make sure everything feels okay. That's absolutely spot on now. The next thing we're left, or last thing we're left to do, just before we put it into place and put the bottom nut on there, is just swap the seal over there as well. So, but a new seal comes in the kit. Yeah, let's just get that done and just get the new nut on. And just as I was saying earlier on, the kit comes with two nuts. One's left hand thread, one's right hand thread, depending on which side shaft you're doing. Right, now the only thing that I haven't got, I'll try find out, see if I can do a bit of research and just overlay the torque setting. But I haven't got a torque setting for it, and to be fair, I haven't really got a tool that I can get a torque wrench on that properly, so I'm just going to give this a really good nip, just with a spanner. Right, so just give that a good nip with the spanner. Last thing I'm going to do, just use a punch and just pin the two edges in just where the knockover point is. So we've got one on that side there and just another one around there as well. That's it, the bearing's all done and swapped over, ready to just install it now. Yeah, hopefully I might get a quick video together. So it's been handy that we've been given this shaft so that we can swap everything over without the vehicle here. So once we get the vehicle in, it's just a case of just getting the old one out and getting this one back in. But yeah, hopefully if I get a video together, I'll put a full sort of video on there describing how to get it out and get the new one in. And if I can find out any torque settings, I'll put them in the video as well. And if I've got that video done, I'll put a link in the description to where you can access it as well. But yeah, I hope the video helped. If it did, give it a quick thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.